again, do it again. All right, first start. It's got oil, it's got giant vacuum leaks. It's got compression, it sounds like. That's nice.
We have fuel hooked up?
Fuel is hooked up, but all right, so we rewired the fuel pump relay. Al here is helping me. Very exciting stuff. Sunday, late afternoon, and first start. We cranked it to prime everything. Oh. What do we got? It's firing, yeah. Work that pedal. Is the fuel pump relay?
I don't know if it's doing it every time.
We gotta click it again.
Click it off, yeah. Alright, turn ignition on.
Ignition is on. There it is. Okay. Now it'll probably stay running. The fuel pump's turning, like, I need to turn. We'll hit the relay and then I'll crank it. All right, so we got the car to run. That's cool. You know, everything's kind of like half-ass plugged in. You know, we just wanted to make sure the engine was good because I literally had no idea. Bought it off Facebook. So that's cool. We're going to button all that stuff up. But meanwhile, we're going to get back to the fun stuff, which is fabricating and plumbing, as far as I'm concerned. In this video, we are going to be plumbing everything. I made this one hot pipe, just aluminum stuff. Ran it through the factory hole like I had originally decided. That's nice and tidy, leaving room for an air filter to go here and an intake tube, and a power steering reservoir has to go right here, which I might fabricate or I might just modify one of those universal circle track ones that we use on some other projects. Intercooler was mounted in the last video, and here I have the radiator I decided to order for it. It's a PWR or CNR. And I took some measurements, found the most CFM's worth of fans I could fit on this surface area of the radiator without getting crazy. And I'm probably gonna sit them on here like this, kind of stagger them like this, so that they're all on the actual surface area. And then I'll put some little flaps here. So that's the plan. Before I make these other pipes, this one and the intake pipe, I wanna make sure I have space here, radiator, shroud, fans. Even though I do have a massive gap here, still just want to not do something twice. So next step for me is mounting the radiator and the fans and the shroud and all. Brackets I decided to make. It's basically just some 1/8" wall square tubing that was 2" by 2". I thought that would be pretty damn sturdy and also pretty easy. So these are the brackets I just had in the tumbler. One on that side, one on this side. Also, radiator brackets all welded on, looking good. Got 4 1/4 bolts holding this thing in. I think that's gonna do just fine. Next step is to make a shroud for the radiator that'll hold all the fans on it. So I got the general shape of the shroud cut out along with these little windows for the air flaps. I am going to hand cut these with a jigsaw. These are the fan openings. What I did is laid these on here and trace the inside edge instead of the outside edge. That's just how I've always done them. As a matter of fact, I always used to do all this by hand, but the times have changed. I have a plasma table now, CNC. By the time you draw it all out, I don't know, I probably could have cut this whole thing and drawn it all by hand and cut it out in roughly the same amount of time maybe, but here we are, embracing technology. So we're going to cut these out. Still working on this fan shroud. I'm using our Toyokoki CNC press brake. I've got it in manual mode, so all I have to do is turn this little pinwheel here, and that will raise and lower the ram manually. We use this for doing, you know, like one-off hand fab stuff where we don't need the back gauge and the fancy CNC operations. So in this case, I put the correct dies in here, and punch is in for this material, and I'm just going to kind of hand roll some 90 degrees for the frame of the shroud. All right, so I skipped a lot of steps showing you guys how I made this, but you saw me bend up the edges. I also put the flaps on, fans all bolted on, made these little brackets that hold the shroud on, welded a 16AN down here onto that. That was like a big barb. So we're ready to go in the car for good, I believe. So I'm modifying the thermostat outlet to be able to run an AN hose. I'm going to run BMRS AN hoses for the upper and lower radiator hoses. And I chopped off, I actually found an aluminum, these are plastic from the factory, so I found an aluminum thermostat housing, which is cool, and I want to weld a -16 on it. I don't really like how that has that big flange on it sticking off. Like, yeah, I could weld the back of it, make it look nice, but instead I took a bung, grabbed it in the lathe via this bulkhead nut, and then I turned the flange off. We're running bleed ports off the one off the top of the radiator there, and then it has a factory bleed port off the cylinder head right here, like above the turbo manifold. And that normally, this pipe like kind of sat a little lower. I bent it up and went over here and had like a barb on it. You run a hose to the header tank that, I don't know, I think it sat here on a Mustang. So I cut it off and I turned this little steel -4 fitting I had down, and that is going to go right inside of there like that. Boop. And then I'll run a 90 off of that over to my header tank. All right, and Chris is going to have a little tip for you here as he makes this upper radiator hose for the car.
This is an upper radiator hose install for Brian's E36 M3 using the BMRS hose. You want to make sure that when you're covering a short distance like this, the hose sits naturally as possible. Although it is very flexible, you don't want to kink it or force it more than it needs to be to make the connection, or it'll look kind of strange. You want everything to just look good, similar to intercooler piping or exhaust piping. You don't want it to be like a miter cut scenario where it's super crammed on there.
So Chris is plumbing some of these hoses for me while I'm doing office work. We modified that to accommodate an AN fitting, and so we're just going to run that over to our E36 Combo tank. We're going to run that one there. Radiator hose is also done, and we're going to do the one other bleed hose is going to be off this top of the radiator here. So I did really want to highlight this as it's a key part of this particular build. This is the new Alaria E36 Combo catch can header tank. Very cool part that we designed here. It basically has a large capacity breather tank and has some pretty cool baffling stuff going on inside. It uses a Canon panel filter under there for the breathing. 10 AN ports. It's got a 6 AN drain back, and then attached to it is a coolant header tank or bleed tank. It's got 4 1/8 MPT bungs, radiator cap of course, and then it's got a -10 feed here, and that basically comes from the water pump side. So in this case, we just have it on the bottom of the radiator. Some people tee them into the lower radiator hose. So just wanted to show that off, and also that we got these, just about all the coolant plumbing done. These are the 2 hoses. The only 2 bleeds we're using at the moment. That's that factory one I was showing before. Put a coat of paint on it and ran a bleed line to it. And then this one also, right here you can see we're bleeding off the top of the radiator. This is that factory plastic thing. I think I'm gonna use it. It's nice. Clean it up first. But that's that bleed hose right there. All BMRS stuff. Looking good. Also, you can see we got the other pipes done. Intake pipe right here feeds the turbo. We're going to give it a brushed finish, I think, to match that hot pipe I made. And Chris made these beautiful welds. Thank you, Chris. Cold pipe working really well. Also, it's got our map sensor on it. That's a Ford thing. And it also has another map sensor on the intake, but this is like pre-throttle body pressure. So, yep, making progress little by little. And yeah, excited to get this thing done, man. It's close. Pretty good progress here. A lot of plumbing done. Next step is to kind of clean up all the wiring, finalize basically everything. We still have to plumb the power steering, which has a cooler mounted right here, set trap cooler mounted in the grill, and we're going to make a reservoir there. We got to make a coolant overflow, which is going to go there. And that's about it. We're going to check the list and see what's left to do. That stuff will be in the next video. So yeah, that's a wrap for this video. Thank you for watching. Be sure to check out the previous video on this car if you're unfamiliar with it, and subscribe, because we got more content coming, not only on this car, but on some other projects here soon too. Thanks for watching.